Hello gamers both old and new. Now before there was ace combat, before there was air conflict, there was Top Gun. Based on the movie that they really use real planes for dogfighting, and the shooting and the saw blowing up, and Tom Cruise in it. It was a fascinating movie and eventually it did earn its place in NES and a game was created. Now, the first thing I need to mention, this is not a very good game, but it is the first attempt to make a flight simulator to be on an NES. It is kinda hard and difficult. We need to know that. But there's one thing I need to say, although it's hard and difficult and technically speaking, it's near impossible to have it done, they did it with flaws here and there. Now, some may say, hey, this was the first time they're doing it. This after all their first work. You shouldn't be blaming them on too much on this issue. But I need to mention one thing over here. Is you must understand, you have to know that in this game, during the time of this game, we already have Wing Commander. And we also have Star Fox. Furthermore, the X-Wing and TIE Fighter series. If compared to those, this looks pathetic. You can see on the screen is only white and black, and occasionally you can see an aircraft flying. That is flying straight at you, directly straight at you. Your machine gun is actually a very powerful weapon, you can see, and randomly for no reason there's someone on your tail, where you can just jink left and right, and eventually you will lose that chaser. Will he appear again? No. Will he overcatch you and for you to shoot him? No. Making matters worse, just tell me, these planes they are flying across you, are they friends or foe? You have no idea at all. This is definitely different from X-Wing, because if you are playing X-Wing, you can see a TIE fighter easily, you can see an X-Wing easily. You know who's your friend, who's your foe, and what you're gonna deal with. It works for same for Wing Commander, especially the Kirati fighters are more clone-like, and the human fighters are actually more humane-like, if you can get my drift. But to be realistic over here, both fighters look so much the same, and eventually, if you don't believe me, try to put an F-15 and a MiG-29 side by side. And I want you to describe their differences by just using a few words. Tell me, can that be done? I doubt you can. And the game tried to make it as realistic as possible, so they have such a problem and I'm not going to put much blame on them. Now, there's one thing I talk about is the missile choice. Your 40, 20 and 10, of course you take the 40 to bring more shots, and the 20 shots, yeah, maybe they got much more firepower, that's one thing, but the 10 shot is kind of a waste, of course, despite of its very strong firepower. Remember, this is an NES game where multiple, or let's say tons of enemy will be jumping on you, and you really need those missiles. But on the other hand, you can see the player is using most of his guns to deal with his opponents, which is no big deal. And I have no idea why that plane changed, and he's gone again. Now there's one thing I need to point over here. Yes, you can go left and right, but eventually you have no idea where you are going. That's the design of the game. And based on that design, there's one thing that's kind of useful is you are able to, let's say, avoid your attack easily. Why do I say so? Occasionally, your enemies will be shooting missiles at you. And when they shoot missiles at you, they shoot directly in your face. And when that happens, just jink to the left or jink to the right. And make sure the missile is gone from the screen. What you cannot see is not able to harm you in this design. Just give me an idea, and you can see that was a very stupid move. They fly directly at you and you can, let's say, knock them out, knock down easily. And there's one thing I can say that is really, let's say, doesn't make sense is one shot actually take down one enemy aircraft or, let's say, missile. And is it possible for you to use your vocal cannons to shoot down the missiles? Let me tell you, that's impossible. You actually cannot do that. and it's not possible for you to use your guns to take down a battleship, which is what you're doing here. Some people will say, oh, that's not a battleship, that is a destroyer, which is still a very large ship, let alone to be a missile boat or a gunboat. Is still kind of, it still have a size. Don't forget, a small combat ship at least carry 20 to 30 crew, so eventually this doesn't make sense. And now you're fighting the carrier, when I don't know where he launches fighters, and we just keep on dunking missiles and using guns, and sooner or later it blows up. That isn't realistic, just that you know. It did a couple of missiles, I mean very powerful missiles, take down a ship. And you can see sort of, let's say, teleport through the fifth frame, and now you're gonna land on your aircraft carrier, which is kind of strange. And based on what I've heard, as long as you maintain the altitude and the speed, you will land on the carrier. But I do have friends that told me they did maintain it, but they are not able to land it. So this is not a very good design, and it's actually kind of problematic. For you only have 3 planes, or let's say 3 lives in this game, and if you lose a plane or lose a life, you lose it for good. There's no replacement at all. Whatever you do, there's no replacement at all. I don't care how good your gameplay is, I don't care what rank you get, no replacement. And with no replacement, that means 3 planes out, you are off the game. Now we are fighting above the desert, and we change the color. You have no idea where you are, so just put it this way. If this has been, let's say, a television in the 50s, where everything is black and gray, you have no idea where you're flying. Now I need to talk about the planes that you are flying against here. You do notice most of them are, they should be F-15s, right? Or let's say F-16s, which is very hard for me to say. And just put it this way, those turret level, the turret at the grounds, those anti-air aircraft SAM sites, they look stupid. It seems like just a piece of block, or just a simple bit of scribble and put over there, and it's considered a target for you to take down. Now the refueling section is also a strain, which is also a pain for everyone, because not everyone can make sure they can refuel their craft easily. And if you miss the refuel, you miss the fuel. Without the fuel, your plane is bound to crash, and you'll lose a life from that. You do not lose a life in combat. You lose a life because of the pathetic designs make it very hard for you to land on your aircraft carrier or get your plane refueled. Although that is rebutted by saying that actually aerial refueling, or let's say landing on an aircraft carrier, is kind of a heck of a job, but that is a different case. After all, we are talking about a computer game here. If you are doing ace combat, you can actually skip the level, and even if your aircraft is destroyed, or you fail to, let's say, complete the landing, or let's say do the landing, or let's say do the air refuel, it does not penalize you until you cannot continue the game. Over here it does. Fortunately, there's only 4 levels here, so I'm not gonna complain much. As long as you know how to as long as you can fly well, you'll be fine. And just let you know, this is a pathetic design. You are attacking a base, you just aim at the direction, just let your missiles fly, and occasionally let your conce drop directly on targets while your Valkyr cannons do the damage. As you can see, we have been teleported back to our aircraft carrier again. Why don't you just teleport us directly to a target? I mean, that'll be faster, right? After all, this was the first attempt, so I'm not going to put much complaint here. Besides, how are they the control? Besides, the flight controls is roughly okay over here, to the extent where many later flight games, they also use this control. Now I need to put out something for you. This is what we call the arcade control, which you can see in Afterburns, on other, let's say, flight simulators, or like flight games you play in arcade, where you actually cannot roll the aircraft. You can turn left, turn right, and you cannot do the roll spinning which you do in Star Fox or in X-Wing. Some people may complain this is unrealistic, but believe me, the gamers are actually helping you, because flight is a difficult thing. If you have played Ace Combat before and if you have used the real flight joystick, you know that is impossible. Yeah, I know. Your opponents are able to do that. We've seen a few of them doing that, and you're not allowed to do that. That is kind of sad. You do envy them able to pull that stunt, but just put it this way, in flight combat, that is not necessary. So it does not affect the gameplay at all unless you want to do, let's say, some all-run maneuvers. And I gotta say this, that plane that is chasing our tails all the time, is it the F-16? If it is so, who are we fighting? Are we fighting Americans, or let's say, never mind. I also don't know how to put it this way. And the planes that are, let's say, coming towards us really look like Harriers. Yeah, the AV-8B Harriers, which should be under United States Marine Corps. When who are we fighting anyway? But based on the background design, we are at the Persian Gulf. Either it's Iran or Iraq. My biggest bet is Iraq because the game came out in the 90s, where the Gulf War had just ended. Now, I know a lot of young viewers, due to, let's say, your history teacher tell you that actually the Americans kind of bully of attacking people during the Gulf War. Let me point out that during that time, actually many of us are okay with what Bush had done. The Gulf War should have been fought. For if you do know why Iraq is being, let's say, attacked or invaded, it's because they actually invaded Kuwait, and the Americans were actually the liberators then. When the Iraqis invaded Kuwait, the Russians did nothing. The China said they were doing the right thing to protect their sovereign right, hopefully to find an excuse to invade Taiwan later. But President Bush didn't give a shit and attacked them. So using that as a background and consider Saddam Hussein a villain is kind of okay now as a kind of okay then. You really don't need to sympathize them. They saw it had it coming. And with the plane landed here, the game ends. And now we have a simple, but let's put it this way, kinda epic ending game. And the Top Gun term. I don't know about you guys, I actually like this. It's kinda nice for me. So we shall end the game here, and next time we'll be looking in Top Gun 2, where I need to say they made lots of improvement and that game was far better. And I need to say, if it wasn't for Top Gun 1, there will not be a Top Gun 2, so it's hard for me to grade this game in a bad way because it is necessary. It should exist. Anyway, see me next time. We'll tell you the stories of Top Gun 2 and what the people in NES have made this game better. See you then.